In this video, I'm going to show you a few ways that you can make slow motion inside Premiere Pro. Let's dive in.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
So I think before we create slow motion clips, I think it's important to understand frame rates and how they work when you want to achieve slow motion. So if we take a look at my Premiere Pro project, you can see I have two clips here. The first clip is shot in 29 frames a second, and if we play this back, it's in normal speed. It's not already slowed down, so if we needed to slow this clip down, we don't have a lot of frames to work with to slow it down. Where on the other hand, let's say we have this clip here, you can see this was shot in 60 frames a second, under the frame rate category in the project panel. So if we play this back, we can see it's shot normally, but then we have the option to slow it down because this clip includes more frames per second that we can essentially cut in half to make it slow motion. So typically what you'd want to do is make a sequence that is at a lower frame rate, such as 24 or 29 frames a second, and then add your 60 frame a second clip to that timeline and then slow it down. So for example here, if I wanted to make a new sequence, I would go to the new item button down here at the bottom right, click on it, go to new sequence, and then from the preset, I'm going to choose HD 1080p at 29 frames a second here. Then if we click OK, we can then click and drag in our clip that's 60 frames per second. And you'll notice when we click and drag and release, this clip mismatch warning will appear. This is because this clip is at 60 frames a second, and it's just letting you know that the frame rates won't match. But this won't be an issue because if you plan to slow it down, the frame rates will match eventually here. So we can click Keep Existing Settings. And the easiest way to slow down a clip is just to right-click on it and then go to Speed and Duration. Now here you'll have to just do some simple math. You'll have to figure out what the speed can be. So when you have 60 frames per second footage and you want to make it 30 frames per second footage, you can change the speed to 50%. If we click OK, you'll notice that the clip gets longer and it's now slowed down when we play it back in our timeline. If it's helpful, I'll throw up a graphic that kind of has some conversions on it for you where it shows the frame rate of a video clip and how much you can slow it down depending on your sequence frame rate. So that's one way you can slow down your video clips inside Premiere Pro, and it's the most common way. But let's say if you want the clip to automatically be slowed down when you click and drag it into your timeline, how do you do that? Well, what you can do instead is I'm gonna undo this, and you can actually change the frame rate right away inside the project panel. So if we right click on our clip, we can scroll down to Modify, Interpret Footage, and you can change the frame rate under the frame rate section to assume this frame rate. And then you can change it to 29.97, and this will essentially slow your clip down to that frame rate. So once we click OK, and if we click and drag this clip to our timeline, you'll notice that it's already put into slow motion now. And you'll also notice that the frame rate changes inside the project panel under the frame rate category here. So that's another way that you can work with that. This is very helpful if you have a bunch of clips that you know you're gonna want converted to slow motion. You can just select them all inside the project panel, right click and do that action there. Now let's say if you're working with footage that's at 30 frames a second and you wanna slow it down but you don't have the high frame rate. Well, there's a workaround that you can try. It doesn't work all the time, but I'm gonna show you that next. So as I showed you earlier here, I have this clip of a businesswoman walking here. And if I want to slow this clip down, as I mentioned, it's shot at 29 or 30 frames a second, and I don't really have extra frames to work with. But one hack that you can do is click and drag it to your timeline. Once again, keep the existing settings. You can right click on the clip, go to Speed and Duration, and you can still do 50% here, but instead of clicking OK right away, next to Time Interpolation, you can click the drop down and check Optical Flow. This will essentially blend the clips together and create custom frames in between the gaps. So when we click OK, you'll notice that you get a red line under here. And if we click Return on our keyboard, we can render out this preview and we can kind of see what we have. So if we click and play this back, this is kind of what we have. So it does a pretty decent job. And I chose this clip on purpose to show you some of the drawbacks. You'll notice when it comes to changes in exposure or the light, sometimes it acts up. So you can see kind of, if we go forward out in time, say if we pause it right around there or so, as she walks through the bridge through the shadows, you can see there's some distortion on her arm and her fingers there. And here and there it just doesn't look good. So it depends. If your shot has a light source that changes throughout the shot, it might not work that well, such as flashing lights, shadows, or if you have a sun in your shot. But those are the ways that you can slow down your footage inside Premiere Pro. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Now, another thing you can do with slow motion footage is create speed ramps. If you want to see how to create speed ramps inside Premiere Pro, I did make a video going over that. I will link that video right up there. Feel free to go watch that, but that does it for this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.